Hey guys, it's Skybird, and I've got something I'm super excited for, which, like, I shouldn't be. It's a silly idea, but I love it. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Also wanted to go ahead and tease the Baron's Raptor build. This isn't the colors it would appear in, but we're going to talk about that here more in a few minutes. So hopefully you stick around for that. But before we get into anything, I just want to say, if you are enjoying the content, make sure you are subscribed. It really helps the channel out. And that's all I'm going to say. Let's get into this idea because I'm super happy about it. Like, I'm definitely hyper fixating on it. If you guys are familiar with old Bionicle sets from the past, you'll know that they came in canisters, many of them. And those canisters had lids, usually with some kind of secondary purpose, right? It was one of the sort of staples of Bionicle, if you will. Whether it was the Suvas from the original Toa Mata and Toa Nuva sets, or the Metru canisters fitting together, and so on and so forth. Even the simple use of displays from the Baraki and from the Avmatoran and things like that, right? So this idea was different, and it hits differently too. So if you guys are familiar with 2008 Mystica line, the lids on those don't really have a secondary use, but the shape of them is boat shaped if you flip it over. And since I'm going for a sky pirate dinosaur theme, I figured why not lean into that and actually make the boat, or the lid, a boat. First of all, it's thematic, right? Because if you saw that on shelf, you see that it's an upside down boat, and the label has this like boat steering wheel in place of the old Skrull maze shield on it. That leans really heavily into a similar aesthetic, but also it's so on point for the theme, right? And the idea is that it's not just a boat, but it has a lot of connection points. So my thought right now is that the backside of it would have 3 pinholes in it, at least. The sides of it would have 2 axle holes going in, and there'd be 2 axle holes on the back going downward as well. And then on the front of the boat, there'd be 1 pinhole. On the sides of the boat, there'd be little bar-shaped clips for chain links, which I think is really cool. And then the center inside of the boat, there would be 2 axles that stick up, one near the front, one near the back. This seems like a lot, but here's the reason I think this actually works out. So one of the gimmicks I came up with for this series as a whole is that each of the canister sets would come with a cape. It is essentially like the Toa Inika having those glowing swords, right? It's the gimmick, it's the thing that ties them all together. And these capes would be draped with the insignias for each of the villages. I'm not worried too much about that right now, but what if, instead of having the character wear it 100% of the time, you had the option to connect it to the boat via a mast and use it as a sail? How cool of an idea is that? Like, it's so simple, right? Because the mast is just one piece, and then with all these different connection points, you could attach propellers to the back, or the 2008 jet pieces, or the 2008 jet pack pieces, right? And so you get all of these different places to attach whatever you want to spruce up your boat however you want, so each one can look different, even though the canister lids are essentially going to be the same no matter what. And at the very front, you have a pinhole to attach your Thornax to, or attach the Thornax cannon to, depending on what your character comes with. How I love this concept, if you can't tell already. Like, it's so good. It's so, it's thematically, it just makes sense, right? Having all those different connection points also just works in general really well, because, like, you could use it for other things. I mean, if you wanted to, you could attach the axle to someone's hand and now you have a boat-shaped shield, and that's pretty cool, right? Give that to a Titan or something. I love it. That's all I can really say. Like, it's so cool and it's so different. Maybe I'm overthinking it a bit, but, like, the use of it, I don't know what would work better. You know what I'm saying? Sky pirate theme, giving each character their own little sky ship. That's so cool. It's cute too. But anyway, let's get into the Baron's Raptor. So I actually have this thrown together in in a render here, which we'll take a look at in a second. But suffice to say, this would actually take up one of the slots for the Agori sets. Now, you might then ask, well, if that wipes out an Agori slot, then aren't you getting less Agori? Technically, yes, but in my defense, here's my thing. So I plan on this series having 9 Glatorian rather than the original 6, although a year's worth of Bionicle usually actually has 12 full-size sets and usually has 6 Matoran-sized sets. In this case here, we would also have 9 Matoran-sized sets, but remember that I also plan on making vehicles, and those vehicles would also feature more. So if we look at 2009 Bionicle, we actually got 14 Glatorian, or 13 and a half, depending on what you want to consider Teleris, and we got 11 Agori. So I'm just looking at rounding those numbers to be about the same or as close to them as I can get, which means some of the vehicles will come with Glatorian, some of the vehicles will come with Agori, and in this case here, I plan on making the Baron's Raptor tan. So it means that I want one of the vehicles to come with a tan Agori so that I can make up for the fact that you wouldn't be getting it from this canister. But what would be cool is that it would come with a custom helmet. Yes, this helmet here is just a stand-in. It is from the Fangs set from Hero Factory. It has a CCBS connection, but it does one thing really well. I'm going to go ahead and take it off here really quick so I can show you. But the backside of this helmet has these little flaps on it. And those flaps are exactly 3 modules apart. You can fit a 3-length axle in here. And what else you can fit in here is the top of the Hukimari head, meaning that these 2 pieces could essentially connect together so that they can't be rotated. Does that make sense? It's a little bit off because tolerance is a thing, but you get the point, right? So what if I developed a head to actually fit this concept and I made it reversible? So that way you're not just getting a creature head from this, but you're still getting a head that can be used for an Agori figure. Let me go ahead and show you that very quickly. So this is the sketch I came up with very quickly yesterday, and it is inspired both by, well, this helmet here, the Fangs helmet, as well as, of course, a Raptor type of head. But on the back side, you'll see we have this sort of like Greco-Roman style gladiator-like helmet. And I love this as a concept. Now, there are a few little caveats that I have to make for one thing. As you can see on screen, you can see that there are dimensions at the bottom that say 3 wide, and that, or 3 inside rather. And that is because those cheek flaps coming off the bottom need to be able to fit around this head. Otherwise, the helmet could just rotate freely. You might ask, well, why does it rotate like that? You have these pinholes on the front of this, and that's a problem because those do not allow for solid connection. They're always going to allow for rotation. I could connect something via both pinholes, but that starts to lead to problems when it comes to actually utilizing this mask for the actual use of a Glatorian head. The other connection on it is this axle hole inside here, though it is a bit of a loose connection, and also it would mean I have to put axle holes into the side of the helmet. I'm not opposed to that if I can hide them well. But again, I want to make sure that they don't disrupt this helmet design, because I want this not just to be useful for this creature, but also for a character, right? And so yes, it is a bit of an elongated helmet, but that's not unusual. We've seen that with characters like Vastus, with characters like Kina or Tarduk or Gresh or Gelu having masks that are longer. And so I think it works well here, so long as it can be balanced. So I'm going to try and throw something like this together in Blender. No idea if I'm going to be able to do it, because I'm good. This will be probably the first item I completely start from scratch. So fingers crossed. But suffice to say, I love this as a concept, and because it is a reversible helmet and I plan on using the Raptor side here, it just makes the most sense to reuse it, right? Usually vehicle characters in Bionicle, at least in the case of 2009, reuse masks or share masks with other characters. It makes sense. That's a good way to budget those parts. And so to do so, 2 of those 3 vehicle type masks were reversible. I would have wished that all 3 would have been, but suffice to say, it makes sense to do the same thing here. So my thought is that the character that will be piloting the Ornithopter, which will be a dark blue character, that character will wear this as well. And the reason I chose dark blue specifically is because I have at least 3 Agori slots for vehicles right now: dark green, dark blue, and tan. Since we're already getting the helmet in tan, it makes no sense to use it a second time in the same color. And since we already have a creature helmet with the spigot set in dark green, I wanted to reserve this helmet here for dark blue. That way it can be reversed, used for a dark blue creature later on down the line. I think that that is honestly the best choice. So I'm pretty happy with this. We're going to go ahead and hop over super quick before ending the video to take a look at the Agori that I've designed so far. Now, granted, these are just rough designs. The helmets are stand-ins. This is mostly just to get the colors situated, because there are 9 colors here, 9 different elemental or regions being represented, right? The characters don't actually have elemental powers, but they belong to different villages. So the idea is that you're getting fire, rock, sand, ice, and I'm just gonna say right now that rock and stone, I'm just considering those the same: jungle, water, earth, iron, and air, right? This makes a lot of sense to me because they all look distinctively different, although I may end up getting rid of the tan on rock and giving him something like sand blue. That does mean some more recolors, but I think I can work with it. And I also plan on changing the feet for the purple and black character here to purple and giving them black limbs, but then keeping the purple limbs up top, if that makes sense. So doubling the colors there. It's not something I typically do, but I think it makes more sense to give this a new foot color just because these limbs are notoriously fragile. And would you rather have fragile limbs or a slightly less fragile foot? I think the foot makes more sense. It's just more valuable. But yeah, so that's everything so far. Again, a lot of those are just filler right now because I haven't come up with actual builds for them, but I think distinctively they set themselves apart well enough. That's the idea. Of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what your color choices would be for this or how you think these characters should be set up. Maybe one of them will be a four-legged character. I don't know. But suffice to say, I'm really happy with it. And of course, as always, if you want to support the channel, get some perks, you can check out Patreon in the description below. You can join the conversation in the comments or on Discord, Instagram, linked in the description, and make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Oh, and Happy New Year, I guess.